Yeah, hi Andreas. Here's the setup. First of all, we have a software-defined radio receiver. This is basically an analog to digital converter with a few physical filters. It acquires the data, which is then fed out via USB. Here's the antenna socket. I'll show you the antenna arrangement in a minute. The SDR is connected to a standard old laptop with a busted screen, hence the funny effect on there. If you have a look close up, you can see the frequencies, times, UTC, and the station names that I've received, and the distance from here. Now at the moment the distance is not very much, it's only a handful of kilometers, but yesterday I received two stations with 16,000 kilometers path length. Now, bearing in mind that the signal being transmitted is anywhere from 0.1 watts to 20 watts, that's very, very small signal, and the data is being transmitted in a very, very narrow bandwidth. In other words, it's a tiny little narrow signal, and it goes for 2 minutes, and you can see one here. This is a tie station, so it's fairly strong. So in that column of white spots is some very slow speed noughts and ones digital data, and the frequency that it's being received at is 7038.6 megahertz, which is the assigned frequency for this narrowband transmission called WSPR, which means weak signal reporting, basically. So it's a special type of encoding for the radio transmitter, and it's agreed to a standard. Then what happens is, the next stage I'll do the next clip, which is these signals are then sent to a server automatically as they're being received. The server has signals from everybody all over the world who is doing this work, and the server sort of assembles everything together for post-processing, including making maps, which I'll show you in a minute. So if you stand by, this will be going on to the next one. Right, okay, here in my office we have the map. I'll zoom in a bit on that. The software on this site takes the signal reports, which are associated with my radio station, which is here in Thailand, as you can see, and it's the south, there's Bangkok about here. And over the last 24 hours, for all frequencies that I monitor, this is the signals that I've received. Some of them, as I say, are in Africa. I've had them from Antarctic this week, which is very, very encouraging. It means that your signal stuff is working well. For instance, here's Trinidad and Tobago, and here's a very weak signal here. I can just kind of zoom in on it. So if I put my mouse over that, you can see that the station name was 9 Zulu 4 Foxtrot Victor. That's 7.040126 megahertz, and he was outputting 20 watts, and he came 16,758 kilometers. However, we nip up here a bit to Barbados, which is sort of a similar path length, 16,392 kilometers. 8 Papa 4 Alpha Alpha at the same frequency was transmitting at 1 watt, and he got through. So theoretically, those two stations could have both been transmitting at 1 watt or even less, and then covered the enormous range. I'll zoom back out through the ionosphere and reflections, and then over the important grey line, where there's a difference in propagation between one side and the other, and some form of ducting can occur here. So that's an important point. And back into my station here. So if we can see this again, we've got Australia, we've got South Africa, I've had India, Japan, China, Russia, lots of European stations, and even down in the Antarctic. I'm not sure that I can get that. It's a 24-hour period. If I go for all the stuff that I've received in 2 weeks, and I've only been setting this up recently in the last 7 or 8 days, so it won't be much data. But you can see stations down here, which were ships, Antarctic research ship and a base, and lots of stuff to Africa, and a little bit of stuff to India. There's quite a lot of interest in radio amateur work in India. And here's Australia, and etc., etc. And we've got even one sort of popping up here. So nothing from America, but we'll wait until conditions change. So next job is to show you on clip 3 the antenna system, which is a very simple antenna, and I'll try and get some good shots of that. Okay, stand by. It's sweltering 35 here. So it's possible you may be able to see in the distance my base there, which is kind of an electric fence, and a little bit above it there's a white thing on the end of what looks like a piece of string. That's one half of the antenna, and the antenna has a slightly higher pole, and it's a dipole, meaning there's 2 sections of equal length, and the midpoint is around my little office here, my David Barry train station, as I call it. So if I take a pole up here, these are the types of bases that I had made locally by my friend, and overhead you can just about see it. Hopefully the sun isn't blinding it. I'm not sure you can even, I can't even see it in the viewfinder with these stupid phones. Anyway, the aerial goes over the house. There's lightning protection. So coming into the aficionado, under here there's the radio equipment and my computers. There's, first of all, the all-important anti-lightning job. Thank you very much, GCHQ, for donating that to me. A UPS I pulled out of a skip because Ty's throw them away. They don't know, they just need a battery. And there's this thick cable coming in here, and a lightning protector, and my central UFER, look it up, earthing system. UFER was the name of a gentleman, Mr. Ufer, who invented an earthing system that's made from connecting all your rebar in the cement, that's the steel, together, because there's a lot of free ions in the concrete which enable a good ground to be made. So I've got a very good low impedance earth. In fact, that black wire is me testing it recently. Here's my extremely slow internet. Boring. I only get 1 gigabit per second for £12 a month on fibre. Terrible. And all these pipes go off around the area of our little country home, and they have lots of bits and pieces in them. So I hope that's instructive, and for less than a couple of £100 you can just build a reception station. You don't even need a license, basically, and you can pick up all sorts of signals, and I can listen to radio amateurs, Chinese radio stations, spacecraft, ships, radio amateurs, you name it, we can receive it. And what was once large equipment is now becoming intrinsically very, very small boxes with high performance A to D converters. And the way that it's changing is a bit like the music industry changed, where you went from analog recordings to entirely digital recordings, and it went through a phase of 16-bit acquisition, which wasn't very good, and it's gone to 24, 96 and beyond, which is very good. Okay, bye.